StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Before we get into this, let me remind you of two things. First of all, I send out a text every day guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point. I call it the Daily Motivation. Once we get that thing running again, you will be getting it immediately. So just text me now so you don't have to worry about it. When it's ready, you'll already be ready. So text me at my number 305-384-6894. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where I do all my coaching. That is the place where if you would like to have me as your direct coach, if you would like to be able to have direct conversations with me where you share your challenges, you tell me what's going on or what you're looking to do, and I can provide you not only with answers to the questions that you have, but also maybe some better approaches to the ways that you have been thinking about going about addressing your challenge. All that happens at Work on Your Game University, and we have a 4-part framework there that is based around mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. If that is what you know you need, or even if you're not sure that's what you need, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Take a look at what we are doing in our program, because we have it, the framework of the program, all laid out there. Some case studies and testimonials from people who we have and are currently working with on there, so you can see for yourself, and you maybe see some of yourself and some of those people who we've already helped. And you can take the next step in getting into the university by having a direct conversation with me or somebody on our team free of charge, so you can at least get some crystal clarity about where you're at and where you need to go next. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is, again, down below in the description. Or if you got a good enough memory, you can just type it into your browser, workonyourgameuniversity.com. So with that out the way, let's get into the subject, which is how to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Now, this is a term or a phrase that many people have used. I mean, this is not a brand new term, how to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. If this is your first time hearing that term, I don't mind you giving me credit for it, but I did not create this term. So this is something that people have been saying, for a long time, and it's become cliche that you may have heard before and maybe even used. And it's not a bad cliche, because there is some value to the concept of staying ready so you don't have to get ready. The thing is, I don't think many people understand exactly what goes into it. And that's what I'm going to explain here today. I'm going to dissect this term and figure out how we, you, how all of us can stay ready so we don't have to get ready, so you can be actually intentional and conscious about doing this, so you can employ it in your own life in many different ways. Okay? That sound good? Good. We're going to make this clear. We're going to make it actionable as usual. Point number one. Topic, once again, is how to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Number one, prepare as if the performance is happening today, even if it's not. Number one thing you can do to stay ready so you don't have to get ready is to prepare as if the performance, whatever the performance may be, as if it's going to happen right now, as if it's already occurring. That's how you prepare. That's the kind of preparation, that's the level of preparation that you want to be at. How do you prepare as if this thing is already happening, even if it's not happening? So if you're an athlete, preparing as if the game is happening today. If you're a professional speaker, preparing as if the speech is happening in 30 minutes. If you got to give a sales presentation, as if you need to get that sales presentation tomorrow morning. All right, that is what I mean. Preparing, and that's just a mental thing. The reason I'm telling you that this is a mental thing, so that you're mentally conditioning yourself and getting yourself ready for the performance before the performance happens, so that when it happens, you're already mentally prepared. You've already gone over it in your mind so many times that it's second nature to just do whatever the thing happens to be. So in sports, speaking of such, think of the backup quarterback for your favorite football team. The backup quarterback may go the entire season always having to get ready for every game as if they may play, but never actually get a chance to play. They never actually get a chance to play any meaningful action in the season, because the starting quarterback is healthy throughout the season and they never need someone to come in for them. But that quarterback understands at the same time that it only takes one twisted ankle or a hard hit to the head to the starting quarterback, And all of a sudden, the backup quarterback is the main quarterback. And they got to step in and be ready to do 100% of the job, even though there was a chance that they may get to do 0% of the job. So they can go literally from 0 to 100 real quick, simply because something happened to the person in front of them. And that backup quarterback is a tough job. And what makes that job tough is that you have to prepare as if you might need to play the whole game, but you might go the whole game and not play at all. And that's a tough, mentally, a tough position to be in. It's one thing to prepare to play the whole game because you actually are going to. Another thing to prepare to play the whole game and you might not even get a chance to. But then 3 weeks from now, after you did that 3 times already, now you get a chance, you got to play the whole game. Then the next week, you go right back to not playing at all. That's a very tough mental challenge. Any of you who's been in the military, for example, you may have dealt with that, where you had to always be ready for some type of military call to duty by the people in charge, and then you didn't actually have to do anything, didn't have to do anything, and a long time ago by you didn't have to do anything, and all of a sudden you got to do something, and you had to stay ready the entire time just in case that call came to do something, and you had no idea when or if that call was going to come. So you had to always stay ready, because by the time something happens, you don't have time to get ready. All right, so you have to always be ready to perform. And this is, again, a mental challenge, folks, not a logical or rational challenge. So just in case you're needed, you have to always stay ready just in case the situation it calls for it, even though it may never call for it. This is a serious mental challenge, folks. And this is why my book, The Third Day, has a subtitle that says, The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. Because being ready, just in case you need to get ready, is a choice. It's not a skill, not a talent. Like, getting ready is not a skill, right? Anybody can get ready if they want to. Whatever your form of getting ready is, that may vary, but choosing to get ready is a choice. It's a decision. In any field, the pros are separated from the amateurs not by talent or resources or skill, but by the decisions that we make. Shall I say that one again? In the pros, in any job, any industry, what separates the pros from the amateurs is not talent or resources or skill, but the decisions that we make. The decision to always be ready, knowing that you may not even get a chance to show what you have prepared yourself to do, is part of being a pro. That's a professional level choice. The difficulty is in knowing that you may not even get the chance to show off your game, even though you're completely prepared. It's a bit easier. Actually, I believe it's significantly easier when you at least know exactly what you're going to need to do, when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. It's easier when you know what's happening. In basketball, for example, you may not be a starter on your basketball team, but if you know that you're the second guy off the bench, so in basketball, 5 people start, and then the first guy off the bench usually is called the 6th man, and then the next person, you be the 7th person. So if you know you're number 7 in the rotation, and you know that you always get subbed into the game about 7 minutes into the first quarter, then you can prepare for that. You can prepare that, okay, I know at about the 7-minute mark of the first quarter, I'm going to go into the game. Maybe sometimes a minute earlier, maybe sometimes a minute later, but I know that's pretty much what is expected of me. When you know what's expected of you and you can just prepare for that, and then it happens exactly that way, that still requires a level of preparation, don't get me wrong, and a level of performance and result producing, but at least you can prepare for it. A whole different thing when you're the guy at the end of the bench and you may go 10 games straight without even getting on the court, and then game number 11, somebody gets hurt in the first quarter. Now you got to get in there and play the whole game, and you have to have stayed mentally and physically ready that entire time when you weren't playing at all, and now you got to jump in there and be ready to do something. That, I believe, is a harder job. Both of them require performance, but I believe it's harder when you don't know it's coming. It's at least you can, again, mentally and physically prepare when you know exactly what's going to happen, and it happens just like that. When you don't know, that's a whole different level, and you had to be a true professional for that. I tell this story sometimes in some of my keynote speeches, that Steve Kerr, who is today, he is the coach of the Golden State Warriors basketball team, but he used to be a player himself. He played with Michael Jordan, and when the Bulls won their last 3 championships in the 90s. And he was also on the San Antonio Spurs in the early 2000s and won another championship with them in, I believe, 2003. And that year, Steve Kerr was on his last legs. It was his last year in the NBA. He barely played. He was one of those guys at the end of the bench who never got in the game. And there was one particular game, they were playing the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. Steve had barely played the whole series because he was at the end of the bench, and he was done. He didn't really have anything left to give the team. But this game, the Spurs weren't playing too well, so the Spurs coach decided to throw Steve in the game just to give him a shot. And he said, let's just see what Steve can do. Nobody else is doing anything. Let's see what Steve can do. Steve Kerr comes in the game, and he hits a bunch of big shots, a bunch of big 3-pointers, late in the game, and the Spurs end up winning that game and going on to the NBA Finals, and they end up winning the championship that year. And after that game, when Steve Kerr, who had barely played the whole series, got in the game and made all those big shots, what his teammates and the coaches said about him said, Steve is the ultimate professional. And this is what I mean when I say professional, is being ready to perform, even if you have no idea if your number is even going to be called, but being ready just in case it does. Point number 2, topic once again is how to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Number 2, set preparation and performance standards for yourself that are above and beyond the external requirements. Set preparation and performance standards for yourself that are above and beyond the external requirements. The external requirements in any situation is what is known as the bare minimum. I'm a person who always liked to do a little bit more or a lot more than the bare minimum, so that I knew I was giving myself at least somewhat of an edge versus my competition and even versus my peers, like my teammates. I always wanted to have a little bit of an edge over who else I was either going to be competing against or competing with. I always wanted to have a little bit of an edge against everybody I was going up against. Now, why was that? Why? Because I'm a competitor, first of all. I'm a performer, second of all, and I knew I wanted to go to a higher level than maybe the people around me, even if they were my teammates at the time. I never wanted to do just the bare minimum. So when I played team sports, for example, like basketball, I never limited myself to only doing the practices that were required by our coaches. So any of you who's ever played a team sport, you know that the team will have practice every day at 3:00, right? And you have team practice and the team does the stuff that they do. I never wanted to limit myself to only doing what the team requirements were, because going even back to my teenage years when I first started playing basketball, how am I going to catch up to the players who are better than me or get ahead of the players who are relatively equal to me if we're all doing the same stuff the same way every day? I got to do some extra stuff that they're not doing so that I can slowly, day by day, separate myself from them. I talk about this in my speeches as well. We call it the separation day. There's a whole chapter in my book, The Third Day, about the separation day. If you don't have that book, The Third Day, just go to thirddaybook.com. Again, thirddaybook.com. The book's free. All you're going to do is cover the shipping. And in there, I talk about the separation day. The separation day is about every time you show up and give effort when someone else has not shown up, you create a little bit of separation between you and them. Or if they're ahead of you, then you close the gap a little bit. But I always wanted to do that. I always had that in my mind, just by deductive reasoning. How am I going to get better than somebody if we're all doing the same stuff all the time? I got to do something that they're not doing, and I had to do it consistently so that I can, over time, catch up. So especially when I was playing ball, a lot of players when I first started playing were way better than me because they've been playing longer. How can I catch up to them? I can't do the same stuff that they're doing. That doesn't even make sense logically. It makes no sense. So I had to do something extra. Even when I was playing basketball in college, for example, one thing I noticed, and I played college basketball at the Division III level, and I would bet. Actually, I don't even have to bet. I know that even at the Division II and Division I levels, it's the same thing. It's just players with more talent at each level. But for the most part, this same thing, the same phenomenon occurs. And I'll tell you what it is that a lot of the players who play the sport, even though they're playing a college level sport, no matter which level it is, that a lot of players who play team sports don't really work on their games. I've noticed this. I noticed this in actually every sport. It's not limited to just basketball. Players just don't work on their games. They don't. They just play. They play, which is the games that the team has, and they do what the team requires. Like if the team has practice, you practice. The team says go run 2 miles, you do it. The team says we got to lift weights, you lift weights. But as far as doing things on your own volition, most people don't do it. I noticed this when I was at Penn State Abington, my freshman year of college, and my last 3 years were at Penn State Altoona. At Penn State Abington, none of my teammates ever, not one of them, ever came to the gym by himself in practice. Not one. I've never seen a single one of them in the gym practicing by themselves. And if they had been, I would have known about it, because guess where I was? Always in the gym practicing by myself. So if one of them had been there, they would have saw me, because I was always there. None of those guys were ever there. And it's not that they were bad players. Many of them were solid players, at least for the level that we were at. They were solid players, but the reason they didn't practice that much, because what I realized, and now I know for sure, most of them had no ambition when it came to basketball. They just wanted to play while they were at this school, and as soon as they get out of this school, basketball's done. They're going to move on with the rest of their lives. Nothing wrong with that. But I had different ambitions. This is why my actions were different. Be, do, have. I wanted to have a different outcome, so I had to do different things because I had a different mentality. Everybody following this? When I went to Penn State Altoona, same thing. Penn State Altoona was a little bit higher level than Penn State Abington. The average player on the team was better than the average player at Altoona was better than the average player at Abington. But it was the same situation. Most of those players that I played with in college at Penn State Altoona did not ever come to the gym to practice on their own volition. I haven't had many guests on this show ever. This is a solo show for the most part, and those who've been listening the last 2 or 3 years haven't heard a single guest on the show. But I did have Wes Pfeiffer, who is a brother, best friend of mine to this day. Now, I met him at Penn State Altoona, and he was a guy who, one of the reasons that we connected so well and so deeply so quickly was because he was a guy who actually was like me. He would come to the gym and practice basketball by himself in addition to what the team required. And I noticed that about him very quickly because I was already at the school when he got there. And he noticed it about me because when he would go to the gym to practice by himself, he noticed nobody else did. And then he saw me, he was like, and we talked about it, like, wait a minute, why isn't nobody else in here practicing? I said, they don't practice. I said, these guys don't practice. They don't even play pickup. And that's how he and I really first connected when it came to on the basketball court, because nobody else on the team did that. These guys just didn't practice. And there was a reason why they didn't practice. The same reason that my teammates at Abington didn't, is that these guys just weren't ambitious about basketball. They wanted to play while they were in school, but they weren't ambitious like, I need to get better so I can go to the next level. They're like, well, I'm already on the basketball team in college. What I need to do to get better. I don't know if this is exactly what they were thinking, but this is what their actions told me. So their action said to me was, I'm already playing college basketball. I don't need what I need to get better for. At what? Better at what? I'm already on the team. And I was thinking about, I want to play at the next level. So whatever I'm doing to play at this level ain't going to be enough because I want to play at another level. And it is not a coincidence that Wes Pfeiffer and myself are the only 2 players to come out of our school. We stopped playing at a school 20 years ago. Only players that come out of that school to have even 1 minute of professional basketball experience. He and I. And before us and after us. It's been 20 years since. That's not a coincidence, folks. All right. All that said, let's move on to, we're on point number 2. Point number 2. No, we're still on point number 2 here. That when I was playing the team sport again, a lot of people just didn't want to do that extra work. And I always saw it as internal competition. Like, yes, me and these guys are on the same team. When we go play against the other schools, we're all teammates. But I'm still trying to make sure I establish myself as better than them, even though we're teammates. Like, that competition did matter to me. And in my experience as an athlete, it didn't really matter to everybody else. It mattered to some people. I think it mattered to Wes Pfeiffer, who I mentioned. It might have mattered to me, definitely. I don't think it mattered to most of the players I played with, because if it did, again, I can't read their minds, but if it did, then their actions would have been different. And this is my point. I used to think, and you might think, that all athletes would think this way, or that all professionals think this way. Any of you is a professional at what you do. I know this to be true because many members who I've talked to and work on Your Game University, we have talked about this exact thing, that I have members who tell me they run businesses, they run their own offices, and they say, well, look, I will get up early, I will stay late to make sure that I'm delivering at a higher level than what the average person does. And the average person in my profession does not deliver at the level that I deliver. These people will tell me, it's Dre, people don't deliver at the level that I deliver at. They are not doing the stuff that I'm doing. And why are they not doing it? Because they don't have the same mindset, because they don't have the same goals. You understand? And many of you who are either professionals at what you do, and maybe you just have a myopic view of what's happening, or you're not yet a professional at the thing that you want to do, you might think that everybody has this ambition and drive to be great at what they do and want to go above and beyond the bare minimum. The truth is the exact opposite. Most people have no ambition, no drive to be great. They are okay being okay, and which means they will just do the bare minimum because that's all that's required of them. This is how most people live life, period. Most people just do the bare minimum. It doesn't make them bad people. What it means is you have an opportunity. Your opportunity is in not doing what most people do. How many times have I told you that? I keep telling it to you because it's true, and it's where your opportunity lies. Remember, folks, the opportunity is in the opposites. Look around at what most people do, and there's an opportunity there. Every level you go to, you're going to see some commonalities amongst the people. If you do the opposite of that, or you look for the opposites, doesn't mean you should do the opposite of everything that everybody does. Like, sometimes everybody's doing something because it makes sense. All right. When I go outside for a walk today, if the train comes and the little bars are down, the train's going by, you shouldn't try to jump in front of the train. All right. Most people won't do that. Don't do that just because it's an opposite. So when I say opposites, doesn't mean every single thing you should do the opposite of everyone. It's to ask yourself, what is everybody doing here, and where could I go against the grain to create an opportunity for myself? So it's a matter of thinking. It's about the questions you ask yourself. Okay? So you would think all professionals think this way. again, that just they want to do extra to get ahead. No, most professionals do not. So this is an opportunity. Is basically a badly held secret that anyone can use if they're willing to do the work. Most of the teammates that I played with from high school to college to the pros did not do anything outside of team requirements. Nothing, zero. Most of the people who I work with in the professional world outside of sports have the exact same thing apply to them. Most people just do the bare minimum, even when they're pros, even when they're getting paid, even if they're making a lot of money. So if you want to get an edge, all you have to do is do more than the bare minimum. You will give yourself an edge without even trying. Right? It really is that simple. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, how to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Number 3, always have a target. We perform better when we have an outcome to aim for. So you need outcomes to aim for. This is the reason why calendars exist. What is a calendar? A calendar is a target. It's a target that tells you you have to do this from 12 to 1 o'clock. You're doing this from 1 o'clock to 1:30. You're doing this from 1:30 to 2:15. You're doing this from 2:15 to 3:45. That's the target. It's telling you here's how much time you have, and this is the thing that you're going to do. A calendar is giving you a target. A timer is a target. A clock is a target. A goals list is a target. It's telling you exactly what needs to be done. Now, why do targets matter? Because targets create focus. They tell your brain exactly what to do, when and where, and how to do it. Well, not how, but when and where, and you can fill in the how. And focus, folks, is a force multiplier. We talked about this in episode 1193. The longer and stronger you can focus on anything, the stronger your force in doing that thing. This is why you need targets. Targets help you perform better. They are performance enhancers. Everyone understand me? After basketball, when I stopped playing, I needed a target that would help me stay sharp fitness-wise. I knew I was never going to get out of shape or gain weight. I knew I was going to stay in shape. It was just a matter of how I was going to stay in shape because I didn't want to do basketball anymore. So when I stopped playing, I'm done playing. So when I started running, because what I started doing was running outside, because all my years in basketball, I thought I shouldn't run outside because it'll mess up my knees. When I was actually playing basketball, I was hurting my knees more than running. So when I started running outside, it was fun. And it was keeping me in shape. It was cool to do the running thing because when you play basketball, you're doing a lot of running anyway. But this is a different type of running distance. But I still needed a target. All right, just running alone wasn't going to be enough. So after a month or two of just running, I'm like, all right, it's cool to run and it's cool to stay in shape and it's fun and all of that. But I need a target. I need something to aim at here. When I was playing basketball, at least I knew, all right, I got a new season coming up, or there's going to be a game over here. I'm going to play against this guy, or I got this tryout coming. I knew I had a target, something to aim for. It doesn't even have to be in the next day or two. It could be 3 months from now. As long as I know it's coming, I had a reason to do the work. You follow me? So when I started running, I didn't have a target. So I needed to figure out a target. So that's why I decided to, the first race that I ever did, I think the first ever race I did a 5K way back. Actually, when I was still playing, I did a 5K. But then the first thing I did after basketball is I think the first race I entered was the marathon. I did Miami Marathon twice. And then I did a 10K distance. I've done some half marathons, 10K. I found a 10K to kind of be my comfort zone distance. I like that distance because it's a good combination of both endurance and speed, and I can train for a 10K without it interfering too much with my business focuses. My main focus in life right now is not being an athlete. It's running my business and creating success in business, not creating success in sports. But I'm still going to do sports because I have a personal mandate to always be in professional athlete shape. But there is a list of priorities. There's a hierarchy here, and business is at the top of the hierarchy, just to be clear. So I needed a target. So that's why I signed up for marathons, and I still enter 10K races to this day. In 2024, I skipped one 10K race that was at the very beginning of this year because I had taken the month of December off to just let my body heal up. And I started running again. The day that race was, I actually ran that weekend. But I skipped the race because I felt like I wasn't in race mode yet because I just started running again, maybe about 10 days earlier. And the pace that I ran the day that I was just getting myself back in shape. So I was nowhere near my real game day pace. I looked at my pace that day I ran, and I looked at the winners from that race that I skipped. I would have came in first place in the race. And I'm mad at myself because I would have had another medal to put on my wall, and I missed out on the medal, the first place medal that I would have got had I just took that same race, the same running pace, and took it to the race. But I wasn't anticipating that. But next year I'll be in that race, and I'll get back that medal that I missed at next year's race. But the whole point is I need a target. And then I added, these days, I go to a boxing gym a few times a week, work with a boxing trainer. And even though I'm not trying to become a professional boxer, getting better at the sport gives me a target to aim at. I have some reason to be going to the gym. I'm not just going there and just beating up the punching bag and breaking a sweat. I need a target. I need something to aim for. Every human being does better work when we have targets. And so getting better at the sport gives me a challenge, gives me something to aim at, and I'm never going to really get to a mastery level in boxing because I started at 2 weight, and I'm probably not going to stick around in it for 20 years in order to become mastery level at it. Eventually, I'm going to move on to the golf course. I think that's my next sport. That'll be my last sport is golf. But remember, folks, the whole point is human beings, we do best when we have something to focus on. Focus is a force multiplier. When we focus our resources on one point, we get better results than if we have our focus dispersed amongst multiple things. When you're looking at multiple things at the same time, that's the opposite of focus. That's called distraction. So the question for you is, what is your target? What is your current aim? How will you know that you have reached your aim? And how are you measuring to know that you've gotten there? You can use this idea in every aspect of life, and you should, because again, it gives you something to focus on. This is why every month I tell you, set your goals. Every year I tell people, set your goals and consistently remind yourself of the goals, because it gives your brain a focus. It tells your brain what to do. You lead your brain to its own devices, it can go in a million different directions. That said, let's recap today's class, which is how to stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Again, this phrase is a cliche, and I'm deconstructing this so you understand how to actually use it. Number one, prepare as if the performance is happening right now, even when it's not. Think the backup quarterback in football. They may go 10 games straight without playing at all, and then in game 11, they got to play the whole game. So they have to stay prepared just in case that call comes. Think of it as someone in the military. You may not know when you need to jump into combat, but when you need to, you don't have time to get ready. You just got to already have been ready. Point number two, set preparation and performance standards for yourself that are above and beyond the external requirements, above and beyond the bare minimum. Most people, most professionals, even paid people doing the thing, only do the bare minimum. So all you have to do is look around, notice that, and do the opposite of that, and you got yourself an opportunity. Number three, always have a target. All right, human beings perform better when we have a target, because a target directs our focus, and focus multiplies force. So always give yourself a target, give yourself to aim at. You will always perform better work when you're focused than when you are not, regardless of your skill or talent level. That said, text me so you're in my text community. The number's down below in the description. And workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your direct coach. Get into our framework of mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability so that you can perform at your highest level consistently and make more money in your business. Again, that's at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all